Hello everyone. Good afternoon and good morning to my colleagues in the UK. I'm very excited to welcome all the upcoming students who will start their studies in autumn 2020. Also, warmest greeting to our education agency partner, parents, school counselors, and all of who participate today. Today we're going to explore the UK and give you the important updates to prepare your self-study in the UK in 2020. We will give you a time to give questions to our panelists after the presentation. Before we start the sessions, I will read the house rules for the participants. Okay, so if you want to give the question, please type your question in the Q&A box, and the moderator will summarize the questions for the speakers. Remember that the session is being video recorded. By attending the session, you acknowledge that your image and comments may be recorded and rebroadcast. Next. Our rundown for today, we will hear the opening remarks from Mr. Hugh Moffat, the Country Director of British Council in Indonesia, and also we will hear the message from the Minister of State for University, Michelle Donnellan, MP. Continue with the presentation by Ms. Helen Young to give the comprehensive information to study in the UK. Follow with important updates on UK visa and immigration by Ms. Pandora. And last but not least, the presentation sessions from PPI UK and sharing with the Indonesian students in the UK. So without further ado, I will give time and place for Mr. Hugh Moffat.
Welcome to today's pre-departure briefing. My name is Hugh Moffat. I'm the Country Director for British Council in Indonesia. At the moment, however, I'm in Bristol, hence the picture behind me of the Clifton Suspension Bridge just outside my house. So as you can see, the sun is shining in England, and again, welcome to this briefing. It's fantastic to see that so many of you joined today, so many parents and students, and we hope we will give you the answers you need. We're very happy also that we have Pak Arif, who will be joining the Indonesian Embassy in London as the education attaché joining this call. So again, that's an excellent briefing for him, and of course he too will be very keen to welcome you in the UK when you come and ask any questions. So thank you again for attending. We are delighted you've chosen the UK as your study destination, and we want to make that the greatest time when you come here. Indonesia is a very important country for the UK, that we've had many diverse connections, academic, social and cultural, and Indonesian student life in the UK enables that continuation, beyond the life of your study. We have so many partnerships and relationships as a result of the 30-40 years of so many scholarships, training and opportunities, and that gives that rich connection between the UK and Indonesia that we so value. So thank you for doing that. The friendships that have emerged and continue to emerge, and the friendships I've made by my connections with Indonesia are just an example of that. However, we know that starting a new course and moving overseas is a significant undertaking. I'm about to come to Indonesia when I come. I can't imagine for you as your first time, or perhaps maybe the second time you're coming, and we'll know you've got a lot of questions. So today's session is a great opportunity to hear from the British Council, my colleagues who know a lot more than me about all those issues around all of those questions you may have, and of course from UK visas and immigration. About some of the key things you need to prepare for, as well as to what you might expect from your UK studies. We need to recognise the current situation in the UK and all around the world. We're very proud that so many international students have chosen to study in the UK, but we're aware that the COVID-19 situation has led to some changes and adaptations. UK universities are going above and beyond to ensure that students' health and well-being are prioritised. Measures have been put in place on campuses and to ensure that campuses are clean and compliant with government public health guidelines. Now that we have moved past the peak of the pandemic and the crisis in the UK is starting to open up. So we're seeing changes every day. So for example, today people are moving around more freely. We also see that today, for example, people will be using more face masks in the UK. That's a new requirement. So we're seeing the adaptation of the UK, which perhaps in Indonesia, East Asia, that you're more used to it. But for us in the UK, it's been a bit more of a challenge. But that's for us, and we feel we have now adapted well to that. I would like to assure you that all the UK universities are preparing to welcome new students in autumn 2020. Almost all universities are preparing to deliver some in-person teaching this autumn term. Some will blend face-to-face teaching with online technology and tools to enhance student education. Rest assured that the UK has a long experience in delivering high-quality online learning. Teaching is delivered in a safe environment. And in the UK, your well-being comes first. So this is an exciting time for you, for us, because we're welcoming you to the UK. We hope you'll never forget your time in studying in the UK. It's the experiences you will gain and the friendships you will make, which is the most important thing. Will last a lifetime, and we see that again and again. And with a global reputation for research and academic excellence, the UK is a great place to be. We know that, and we hope that you will experience that. Courses in the UK cultivate key soft skills as well as innovative thinking and problem solving. So we believe not just in the technical, but in those soft skills which enable for the 21st century. Academics and employers around the globe admire and respect our reputation for the UK's education system, and our graduates are the most employable most employable in the entire world. That's because our universities and colleges consistently top the world rankings, with 26 of our universities among the world's 200 best institutions for learning. It's why the UK is one of the most popular destinations for study in the world, and a place where your well-being is a top priority. You'll feel safe and secure, and you'll meet students from every part of the world and every walk of life, all in the home of the English language. So we'll be delighted to have you in the UK. One other thing to mention is the graduate route. The graduate route is a fantastic opportunity to gain work experience in the UK. It will allow you to stay in the UK for 2 years after graduation to work or to look for work. Even if you begin your degree through distance learning, you're still welcome on the graduation route. Whether it's your first time in our welcoming, beautiful country or simply your first time away from home, this is your chance to fall in love with the UK's rich traditions, modern attitudes, and our world-beating cultural scene. There are so many things for you to discover here as you study. In fact, you can come to Bristol as well. I mean, there are other cities, but all of them give you that diversity across Northern Ireland, Wales, England and Scotland. So we do hope you have the chance to get out beyond your university and see so much more. So in closing, just to say a very warm welcome to each one of you. The UK's open and inclusive way of life will inspire you. Our rich cultural history will fire your imagination, and you'll be able to develop your best and brightest ideas by studying here. We at the British Council continue to support Indonesian students to access UK education while you're in the UK through information sharing and networking opportunities. And of course, we're here in Indonesia too. So we hope we can continue when you come back after your studies to engage, as we do with so many people. Even now, as I come back to Indonesia after 10 years of being away, I pick up friendships and experiences of those who I met when I was there years ago, and also those who have studied and continued their relationship with the UK as a result. So I wish you all the very best for your studies and hope you enjoy the rest of this session. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Mr. Hugh Moffat. Now we will continue with message from Minister of State for University, Ms. Michelle Donnellan, MP.
As the Universities Minister, I want to make a promise to our international students that we stand by you and are doing everything we can to support you. The UK has a global reputation for academic excellence and innovative teaching, with 4 universities in the world's top 10. The coronavirus pandemic doesn't change this. So we're working to ensure that existing processes, such as visa applications, are as flexible as possible, so that international students who've been planning to study in the UK can continue to do so. Lots of our universities have already set out their plans for the next academic year, including social distancing measures, contact tracing procedures, as well as advice on face coverings and other hygiene practices. And to keep the number of transmissions in the UK as low as possible, all international students arriving here will be required to provide contact information, and some arrivals will need to self-isolate in their accommodation for 14 days. We're reviewing these measures regularly to ensure that they're in line with the latest scientific evidence and remain effective and necessary. And so I'd encourage you to check the latest travel advice before you travel. We are proud that UK universities are already ensuring that their students are safe and well cared for, both upon arrival, but also for the duration of their entire stay. Along with ministers responsible for universities in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, I've written to all international students to reiterate that our universities are open and that we're looking forward to welcoming you for the next academic year. From summer 2021, for students who complete undergraduate or master's degrees, the UK's new graduate route will enable you to work or look for work in the UK at any skill level for 2 years after graduation. And this rises to 3 years for those who successfully complete a PhD. We've also confirmed that international students present in the UK before April 2021 will still be able to be eligible for the graduate route, even if you begin your course online before travelling to the UK in person. Because nobody should have to put their future on hold because of this virus. And I look forward to welcoming our international students, because you are part of what makes our higher education sector world class. As the
Okay. So next, it's time to get information about studying and studying the UK and the preparation for departure briefing. Miss Helen Young will give the presentation for you. So Miss Helen Young, please have your time.
Thank you, Vega. And hello to everybody in Indonesia who's joining us today. I'm speaking to you from South London in England. And I was last in Indonesia last summer in Jakarta and in Solo and had a lovely, lovely time. So I really hope that you enjoy the UK just as much as I enjoyed visiting your country. So what will I be talking about today? Well, I am going to be covering what you need to prepare before your travel to the UK. Travelling and arriving in the UK, what life will be like for you here, and then looking after your health and well-being as well. So if we can move on to the next slide, what I would really like to emphasise is that the UK really is a place where absolutely everybody is welcome. It's a very tolerant country where all ways of life are absolutely respected, and in fact it's against the law to discriminate against anybody because of their race, because of nationality or religion. And with a history of multiculturalism dating back hundreds of years, the UK has well-established communities representing all students and a deep commitment to supporting students' religious and cultural needs on campus here in the UK. In fact, one of the reasons that international students feel especially at home here is the diversity of our universities. So not only will you be in classes and living amongst people from all around the world, actually 20% of our academic staff here are also from overseas. You know, we really do get the best minds to come and teach you here. So this means you'll be connecting with people from all over the world, no matter which subject you choose to study. If we move on to the next slide, and the next slide again, something I really want to flag to everybody is the Preparing to Study and Live in the UK free online course. So let's move to the next slide to talk a little bit about that. So this is a free online course. It usually takes about 4 weeks to complete, but you can do it a little faster if you're speedy. And what is it? It's a free course about how to prepare for UK higher education. So teaching methods, course structures and assessment, you know, what will your exams look like? What sort of academic English language might you need to use? And then practical information as well. So we have information in there about finding accommodation, meeting friends and classmates on campus and elsewhere. And the great thing is it's an interactive course, so you can meet other like-minded individuals like you from around the world who are currently preparing for their UK education. So we will be sharing a recording of this session later today, so after today's session. So you will get the registration link, but for those who are interested, it is hosted on the Future Learn website. So let's move on to the next slide, please. And I just want to flag, for those of you who've already secured your place at the UK institution, you may already have been sent some very important information. So please read this very carefully when you get it. And we do recommend that you start making preparations in line with those guidelines as soon as you can. So it might include information on practical life skills, but also your academic matters as well. And what all of you will have as international students is an orientation course as well. So when you come in to the university, even if you are studying virtually in the first instance, they will help you to become sort of acquainted with the local area, help you with things like opening bank accounts, how to register with the doctors, all of those very useful things that you may have questions about. All right, let's move on to the next slide. What should you really be arranging before you travel to the UK? So a few main things. First one, accommodation. I know a lot of you will be studying virtually for your first term, so do check with your university what their plans are for accommodation. So they will be able to tell you a little bit more about this. And especially what you all need to do is let your university know when you are coming, because obviously you'll have to do that 14-day self-isolation that Minister Donaldson spoke about in the video a little earlier, and they'll just need to know that you're coming so they can support you in that time. Travel insurance is important for everybody traveling, so do some research into that, and it will help with covering any medical emergencies or lost baggage, flight delays and cancellations, which we hope you won't have, of course, but it's good to be covered. In terms of medical insurance, we sometimes get some questions about this. If you're coming to be a student in the UK, you will be covered when you pay your immigration health surcharge for an NHS treatment, so National Health Service, and that treatment is free. I'll go into that a little bit later. But if you're coming for less than 6 months, I would advise it's a good idea to get some medical insurance, as you won't be covered by the NHS during your short stay. And then just make sure you've got the right contact details, so phone numbers for support from your institution. All right, let's move on then to your actual travels to the UK and move to the next slide. What should you be packing in your main luggage? That's a big question. So first of all, I'd like to touch on the weather in the UK. I know when I was in Jakarta last year, people were a bit concerned it might be a little bit chilly here. Actually, the UK has a fairly temperate climate, which means that we don't really go to too many extremes. So no, you won't find extreme heat like in Indonesia, but also you won't find it to be extremely cold like some other countries either, which is a good thing. The weather can vary greatly from day to day, but generally summer, which is at the moment, so June to August, ranges from about 14 to 21 degrees. And then our winter is December to February, and that's much cooler at about 1 to 5 degrees. So that just gives you an idea. And the reason that I mention the weather is firstly because I'm British and we talk about the weather a lot, but also because it has a big impact on what you're packing. So you will want to have things to keep warm. But what I would advise is maybe wait to buy your winter coat in the UK, just because you can actually get them quite cheaply here. There's lots of different options for different budgets, and also you don't want to waste useful suitcase space, so you can get that in the sort of the November sales and things here if needed. The other thing I'd recommend as well, if you'd like to, is to bring a couple of sets of formal or traditional wear, because at UK universities you'll find yourself involved in student societies. We'll hear a little bit about that later, you know, like the Indonesian Student Society and other sorts of do's and things. So you might wish to wear your traditional Indonesian wear as well. Then the last thing on this point is your medication. Make sure you bring enough to take with you. You will be able to arrange a new prescription once you've registered with a doctor here in the UK, but just make sure you're covered for the first instance. All right, let's move on to the next slide. What to pack in your carry-on luggage. So that's the small little suitcase or bag you bring onto the plane. So of course, your passport and visa are the most crucial. Also, just make sure you've got all your travel and departure details on you. Have on your person as well the offer letter. So that's the confirmation of acceptance for studies, or CAS. Your confirmation of your accommodation. So as the minister said, make sure you've got this written down. Where are you going to stay? Because you'll need to show that at the border. Then also bring along any copies of your bank account as well from Indonesia. That's useful. I will give you some links later to opening a bank account. So I know you'll have some questions about that. Bring the contact details, of course, for your institution, and then information about your onward journey, and then just bring some UK money to cover your immediate needs if you can. You can get money out at the airport, but if possible, it's good to have a little bit of cash on you, for your travels. All right, next slide, please. What not to pack in your luggage. These things are mostly self-explanatory, but don't bring any banned or restricted items. I can share later some gov.uk guidance for this, so the government website, but if you just type gov.uk and hand luggage restrictions, you can find more information, but we can share that afterwards. So no banned or restricted items, and then there are restricted foods as well, so don't bring any meat or anything with meat into the UK, or anything with milk inside either, fruit and vegetables, egg products and fish products too. All right, let's move on to the next slide, and the next slide again, if that's okay. So getting to your place of study, you may have some questions about this because you've been told if you're traveling directly from Indonesia, you will need to self-isolate for 14 days. So lots of universities are actually setting up sort of a shuttle system between the airport and your university to make sure you have a very, very nice welcome when you arrive here. So please check with your university to see if this is something that they're arranging, because lots of them are. Really, you're advised not to take public transport if absolutely possible. You can, but just because of the self-isolation, it's best not to. If you do take public transport, make sure you're wearing your mask, of course, and just stay slightly away from others. But there are lots of options in the UK, and when you come to travelling around, do a bit of research as well, because some options are cheaper than others. You know, like buses and coaches will be cheaper than a train. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So again, about this self-isolation. So just to emphasize, this is not about your nationality, it's about where you are traveling from. So if you're traveling from Indonesia, then you will need to self-isolate when you get to the UK. So what does this mean? This means you need to provide your journey and contact details on an online form 48 hours or less before you travel to the UK. And then you'll not be allowed to leave the place where you're staying in the UK for the first 14 days, apart from for very, urgent situations. So just make sure you take this period into account, these extra days into account, because you won't be able to attend your classes in person. You'll have to do it virtually from your room, and you won't be able to leave. So as I said before, contact your education provider before you travel to the UK, because they'll be able to help you with accommodation, with food, your online facilities for your orientation, meeting your tutors and your classmates as well. But please don't worry about this. This is something that, it's not just for international students coming in. If I were to leave the UK now and come back in, I would also need to do this period of self-isolation. So this is just something to keep everybody safe. And the universities are very much set up to support you during this time. Just let them know you're coming in advance. Okay, let's move to the next slide. And I know UKVI will touch on this a little later, but regarding collecting your biometric residence permit, in the past you would have had to have done this within 10 days of your arrival. Of course, if you're self-isolating, you'll have more flexibility to do this once you're out of self-isolation, so not to worry about that. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So we're going to move on now to living in the UK. So let's go to the next slide again. There are a couple of things that I wanted to to mention. So we've got here the UK being a friendly country and that you'll meet lots of people, and we've discussed this a little bit already, but a couple of topics we get questions on are local travel. So as I mentioned before, buses and coaches tend to be cheaper. Something else that I would recommend is that you do some research into weekly or monthly travel passes, because that tends to be a bit more reasonable too. But not to worry, I know it's a lot of information when you're coming to a new country. Your university and your student union and others will be able to support you with this information, so not to worry. Food is a big question. So if you're living in catered halls of residence, you will, that means you'll have your meals catered to you, so provided to you at a cost. And you may also, there's the other option that you choose to prepare your food for yourselves. And there's also the mix of the two. So you'll be able to get information from your university on this. What I would mention is that the UK is, as we said, very multicultural and therefore has shops for all sorts of diets. So not to worry about that. And if you're missing food from home, there's definitely food to be found here. So not to worry. The other thing I would say as well is that actually sometimes eating on campus can be more reasonable in terms of cost, and it's a nice way to meet up with your classmates as well when you're here. Let's move on to the next slide about accommodation. For those of you, most of you will have your accommodation set up before you come, but if you don't, please don't panic, because temporary accommodation is also a good option for the first few days if you haven't secured anything longer term before getting here. But the main types of accommodation that you'll have are the universities provide secure accommodation on campus or just outside campus, or you can privately rent as well. So what you might find is that in your first year that you live on campus in university accommodation, and then you and your friends, once you've made those friendship groups, you may choose to live in a house together. So that's a really nice way as well to kind of build up that independence when you're living overseas. Okay, let's move on to the next slide about managing your finances. So as I said, make sure you bring just a bit of money to tide you over for the first few days. So about opening the bank account, again, this is something I would speak to your institution about, because you will be in self-isolation for the first 14 days. So it would be good to understand when you can get the chance to open the bank account when you're here. What you can do as well is bring a credit card from home for those first few days. There's a very useful link here on the screen for all of the information you need about opening bank account in the UK and what documents you need to provide on that. So I can share that again in the Q&A box later if anyone has any questions. Let's move to the next slide. I just wanted to flag that your living costs will vary according to your type of accommodation, how much you travel and where in the UK you study. Because actually, of course, if you were to live in a big city like London or even in the south of England, it's going to be more expensive than if you're studying more up into the north of the country. So bear that in mind. Let's move to the next slide. Studying in the UK is good value for money, and average living costs we found here are actually lower than in both America and Australia, which is good news. So you can expect to pay between £800 and £1,300 a month to cover your rent, bills, food and other living costs. For a mobile phone contract, you probably pay around £10 a month, but that's just for SIM card only. If you're getting the phone, obviously it'll be a bit more expensive. For anybody who likes coffee, you'll pay around £2, £45 for a cup of coffee on average. But again, in London, that might be more expensive. On campus, cheaper. Anybody who's into the gym, it's on average around £40 a month for a monthly gym membership. But you can get more reasonable than that. It depends on, what standard of gym you're going to and how many facilities you want to use. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Again, do check out the UKISA website, so UKCISA. This is a really handy website with great information on there, and they've got a student calculator to help you kind of manage your budget, and I would recommend taking a look at that. Also, the National Union of Students have a card which you can apply for, and that gives you discounts in a lot of places, shops, restaurants, and other businesses. So do check that out. Okay, let's move to the next slide. About culture and leisure. So there are two bits I want to talk about, on campus and off campus. So in the university, you'll find that there are many student union kind of activities organised, and also many different societies. And I know that our students on the line will be able to help you with some of that information. But it doesn't matter what you're into, you know, is it music, drama, sports, IT? It really doesn't matter. There's societies for everybody, and I would recommend joining some of those, because it's a fantastic way to, you know, go and meet new people. And it's not just that you're meeting, you know, if you're studying like, let's see, physics or something, you know, you're going to meet lots of other physics students. But if you were to go and join a sports society, you're going to meet students from all faculties. So I would really recommend that. And there are great sort of facilities on UK campuses as well, like sports facilities, music halls, that sort of thing. So you'll really be in a good place. Let's move to the next slide. And just to reiterate what Hugh said earlier about the culture and leisure in the UK, we really do have fantastic arts and culture throughout the country, with many museums and theatres and other attractions that you'll be able to enjoy. Also huge music venues, and also small ones as well, depending on the type of music you're into. So popular music and more classical music too. With cinema as well, we've got great, you know, big Hollywood releases, and also kind of more independent films that are available. And again, sport, if you're into sport, not a problem. In the UK, you'll have many opportunities to watch sport live and on television, of course, as well. All right, let's move on. I've already spoken a bit about food and drink, but just to reiterate that, you know, we have all sorts of shops here, and not just for different types of diets, but also for different types of budgets. So just do a bit of research when you get here, but you'll be able to soon notice that some supermarkets, like in any country, are slightly more reasonable than others. And just a reminder, to drink any alcohol in the UK, you must be over the age of 18. But there are many options in pubs and bars and restaurants for non-alcoholic drinks as well, of course. All right, let's go to the next section on studying in 2020. And let's go to the next slide about the safe environment here in the UK. So as others have alluded to already, UK universities are working really hard and following government guidelines, ready to welcome students in this autumn term. Of course, you know, with coronavirus, it's been very hard for people around the world, but it's an evolving situation and changing all the time. So the UK is monitoring the guidance and the scientific advice, and you know, adapting accordingly. I would recommend, though, depending on where your university is, make sure you check out these links, because the way that we're coming out of lockdown in each of the 4 nations is slightly different. Okay, let's go to the next slide on blended learning. So you may have heard about this already, and what this means is that for students of UK universities, you will be doing a mixture in the first instance of both virtual learning and some face-to-face where it is safe to do so. So to start off, almost all universities are preparing to deliver some in-person teaching this autumn term. And in many cases, what's going to happen is, where there are larger sort of sessions like big lectures, those will take place online. And where it's safe to do so, say if you have a smaller seminar or a one-to-one tutorial supervision, that where safe to do so will be done face-to-face. They're also bringing in something called social bubbles. So what does this mean? This means if you're like an engineering student, for example, you may find that you are asked to live alongside other engineering students, and that you have your classes together and that you socialize together. And what that means is that you're able to see people, but that you're keeping in that safe group who haven't gone out elsewhere, you know. So that's kind of how they're controlling things on campus at the moment. What I would say as well is that, you know, if you're, you know, the universities are very aware that a lot of international students are not able to get into the UK for the start of term, do not worry about this, because you're able to start your studies from home online, and they're making provisions for this. They've been doing this all of last term already and have been developing it ongoingly through the summer as well, ready for the autumn. So they're bearing in mind things like the time difference, so that you're able to access recordings of everything just in case you miss it because of the time difference, and that you're able to touch base with a professor or a tutor on a regular basis. So even if you're in Indonesia, you'll still be able to access the absolutely great level of education as all of the students will be able to do. Okay, let's move quickly on then to student wellbeing. So how are they keeping you safe on campus? Well, one thing they're doing is really considering the timing of the teaching to make sure that they're making the maximum use of the teaching days with flexible timetabling to avoid having too many students on campus in the same place at the same time. The other thing, of course, is that they're following the government's cleaning guidelines. They're also changing the layout of campuses a little bit so that so people aren't up on top of each other. Of course, masks are being used as well. You might find that where possible, students have ensuite bathroom facilities, so they're not having to share those washing facilities. You'll also find that where sinks are together, they'll have screens between them. You'll see lots of hand sanitizer around. All of those things are being put in place to keep students and staff absolutely safe. What we're also seeing from some universities is that for those who've had to be on campus in the last term, actually they've been giving food drops to them so that they've been able to access food. Some of them have even received free accommodation during the pandemic. So these are all ways that the universities have been supporting the student community. The other thing as well as physical health is also mental well-being as well. So there are, a program of mental health support already on campus for students, but this is really being ramped up at this time because it is a stressful time for everybody. And we also have a charity in the UK called Student Minds, which really provides a lot of great support for students. So I would check that out if you had any sort of interest in that. Student Minds, it's called. Okay, let's move on to the next slide, and then the next slide again, if that's okay. And this is about the National Health Service. So once you've paid your international health surcharge, you will be eligible for the NHS treatment. And this is, you'll have access to treatment that clinicians consider to be immediately necessary or urgent at no upfront cost. You'll also find in the UK that should you need it, and I hope you don't, but should you need it, testing and treatment for coronavirus is absolutely free of charge, even if the result is negative. So that support is there for you. Let's move to the next slide. Things that you would have to pay for in the UK in terms of healthcare are medicines prescribed by a doctor. The prices are pretty good actually, so don't worry, the price is pretty good, but you will need to pay a little bit. Eye tests and eye care, dental care, so for your teeth, vaccinations against disease, injections. And if you needed a doctor's note or a sick certificate to tell your teacher why you can't come to class, you'd need to pay a small fee for that. Let's move to the next slide. When you register for your with a doctor in the town, please take your passport along with you, as well as a student identification, proof of address and a photograph as well. So don't worry about remembering all this at the moment too much. I just wanted to give you an idea. Your university will provide this information. After a short time, you'll then receive an NHS card by post at your home address, which you can keep with you in case of any queries when attending medical appointments. I have all of your numbers on there. What I would say as well is that for NHS dentists, sometimes their patient list can be a bit full. So just watch out for waiting times in the UK, and it will vary from surgery to surgery. But you can also, if you are able, financially, there is private care available as well. Okay, let's move on to our next slide. So personal safety. I just want to reiterate that the UK is a safe country with low levels of crime and violence. But, on the off chance that there are any incidences, please do announce any of these to your staff at your university to help you with these concerns, because they really are there to support you. Don't be there suffering on your own. There are also community police officers or campus-based security staff who can give you practical tips as well about your personal safety. And again, make sure you attend that orientation course at your university about keeping safe. All right, let's move on. Again, about welfare, please do keep in touch with your tutor and supervisor if there's anything that's bothering you, particularly, you know, if you're feeling a little bit stressed or anything. But for anything more serious, in case there are any emergencies, please be aware that 999 is the number to call to reach the police, the fire services and the ambulance services as well. The number 101 is for anything that's not an emergency, but you need support. So, for example, if you were feeling unwell, but you weren't feeling so unwell that you needed to be rushed to hospital, then you can call 101 for some advice. OK, let's move on. OK, so this is just where to go for support. So as well as your tutor and supervisor, you really can access your student welfare service, the student union, and also place of worship in the UK is another good place if that's something that you're involved with where you can get support. OK. I'm going to stop there, but please do put your questions into the Q&A box and I will be answering those for you. I'm going to hand it back to Vega now. Thank you. Vega, I think you might be on mute. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Helen, for very detailed information. But now we are going to continue to UKVI sessions presented by Ms. Pandora from UKVI British Embassy. So for the participants, just want to remind you that this session will be recorded and we will share all the details later to your email. So, Miss Pandora.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. It's lovely to have you all online. This is something we're all getting used to as you'll become comfortable as well with your online learning. It's also the same to get to know each other here online and try to demystify the UK student visa for you. And I'm here to help you through that process. So we want you to successfully get it right. We want you to feel confident applying. And I want to assure you that the Home Office have put in a lot of pragmatism in place as provisions for you students under COVID-19. And I'll explain a lot about that here. So let's dive right into it. You're very fortunate, along with other nationalities in Appendix H nationals. So let's move on to the next slide, please. We'll talk about documents straight away. So Appendix H means that you're under a list of nationalities, Indonesians included, that only need to provide so much lesser documents when you apply online for your student visa. So I've put here essentially just the very few that you will need to provide. So you can see it's not actually that much at all. Of course, you'll still need to meet the requirements of Tier 4 before you apply, such as funds and your certifications, diplomas, etc. But when you apply online, there is absolutely no need for you to submit online, upload online, all these extra documents. This is just about it. That's all you need to upload online. So you don't need to worry too much about the full set of documents. Let's go through it. So passport you will need. Now it doesn't need to be valid for the whole duration of your study. So say you've got a 2-year master's or a 3-4-year PhD. You only need to have a validity to apply for the visa. So even less than 6 months is also okay to apply for the visa. I always say get your visa first, all right? and then work out your new passport. So when you travel, you can bring your passport with the visa, and you bring your new passport. So both you can bring, okay? So you also need your CAS. Now, your CAS is given to you after your LOA. It differs when you get it. The university will take their own time to give it to you. But as soon as you get your CAS, if you plan to depart and arrive in the UK sooner, I would encourage you to apply the very next day you do receive your CAS. You'll also, only if instructed, be required to submit an A-test certificate, but the majority of you won't need an A-test. So only submit this if your university instructs you. This is only for certain courses. Also, you'll need a TB certificate. Now, I know a lot of questions about which TB test centre can I use because of COVID? Are there new test centres? Do I need to travel? You must use the TB test centre that's appointed by UKVI, which are in Jatinegara, Bintaro, called RS Premier, or the one in Surabaya, also RS Premier, or the one in Bali called BIMC Hospital. Okay, so only for those test centres. And if you're under 18, for example, a bachelor's degree, you will need to provide your consent letter from your parents and your birth certificate. So don't forget that, because a lot of students do forget it, and then we have to ask you down the line for that document. So for these documents, you don't need to upload like huge file sizes, okay? You can even just take a screenshot from your phone and use that, because it will help you to upload the documents faster. Your internet won't be waiting for huge megabytes, And for us, it's also easier to assess, and we don't need huge file sizes to assess you properly. Okay, so going back to the CAS, I want to underline that we will take a pragmatic approach. So say your CAS ends a certain date, and then for a number of reasons you don't intend to fly yet, you can use the same CAS that has a different date in your application later on. So don't worry too much about like dates expiring on your CAS. Okay, so for dependents, a lot of you are asking about bringing your husband, wife and children. If they apply, which is submitting biometrics on the same day as you, as the main applicant, they don't need to provide uploading the full set of documents, okay? So they only need this as well, just a TB certificate, and because they're applying with you, your CAS as well. So you actually don't need to put in the full document list. But bear in mind, if you want to go to the UK first, and then if your family flies later on, that's also okay. They can fly later on, but then they will need to submit the full set of documents. Now, where you find that list, you can go to the gov.uk link I've put there just at the bottom. Now, the big link below is where you apply for your visa, okay? So for all types of visa categories, this one, visit visas, if you want visitors from your parents or your family, or if later on you want to apply for a work visa, that's the same link that you need to open up. Okay, so many of you might be third country nationals, you might not be Indonesians here, you happen to be living or, God forbid, stranded here. You can also apply from Indonesia, or perhaps Indonesians overseas, they can apply for where they are in any country in the world. All right, so let's move on to what people are most concerned about is, when should I apply? When? So again, the Home Office is providing a lot of flexibility for when you can apply. So there shouldn't be any worry about, I have a small window of opportunity to apply for my visa before I have to start my studies in the UK. Both the Home Office and the universities are being very flexible about when you want to apply and when you want to depart. So this will eventually vary for each of you individually. So you need to take into account whether it's online learning, whether you want to do the online learning from here or you want to do the online learning from the UK. You can do either way. The self-isolation of 14 days, you will also need to take into account. So from the date you put in the form online, take into account all these probabilities. You will be getting at present 90 days validity on your visa sticker. So that's a change from previous years where you do get 30 days, or for students early on in the year, they would have gotten 30 days. Now, at present, if you apply or if you do a replacement visa for your expired previous vignette, you will get 90 days. Now, this is used to enter the UK. If it has expired, either the 90-day period that you get, and then you can't travel for COVID reasons, or because your online learning is still going on, you can replace that for free until December 2020. So you really don't need to worry about your visa expiring and then you can't depart to the UK due to COVID or online learning. So when you do it again, depends on when you start the face-to-face or when you want to be in the UK for online learning. Now, just take into account that if you want to enter the postgraduate route, you need to be in the UK physically by 6th of April 2021. So that's a huge window between now and 6th April for you to decide where you want to be, whether here in Indonesia or whether you're required or by your own choice want to be outside of the UK for now. You can depart later on, apply for the visa later on and start your online learning here and not apply yet. And even if you do apply, again, a very long window of opportunity. And if you don't get your visa by the time you should start your course, the universities are being also very flexible with their online learning. So there really shouldn't be any worry about that. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. We'll talk about your BRP, which is essentially a little card. It's like your ATM card. It's called a biometric residence permit. Now, when you get your passport back, you'll essentially get a letter. It's called a BRP letter. You won't get your card yet. You'll get a visa sticker, and then you'll get a BRP letter. So within that 90-day period, you travel to the UK, you use that letter to exchange for your actual BRP card. All right. Now, where you get this, again, talk to your institution. They might arrange for collective arrangement to collect it together at your student union or at international office, perhaps. Also, you might be able to pick your post office when you apply for your visa online. So it's either one of these options. Even if you pick the post office, you can get your BRP after your 14-day self-isolation period ends, okay? So you don't need to worry about picking it up within the 10 days, but do try to collect it as soon as possible after self-isolation ends. So talking about self-isolation, it's a segue for us to talk about the next thing, which is what you need to expect before departing to the border. So the next slide, please. There's a lot of asks about, is there quarantine required? Is there government quarantine required? Do you have to pay any accommodation for that, for quarantine? Is there a COVID test? The answer is there's no government quarantine. It's called self-isolation. So that means you will be able to choose where to stay for 14 days yourself. Okay, it can be student accommodation, it can be hotels, wherever you feel most convenient for you to stay for the whole duration of the 14 days. And you should check on the gov.uk border control website about their requirements, because it will differ for all the UK countries, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, only slightly differ. You must do the 14 self-isolation without going out of your accommodation. So bear that in mind. You need to research how to get things delivered to you, or maybe have support from student unions, from your university, or friends and family who can help you out there. Okay, so about transport and transits. You are required to go straight to this 14-day place that you're going to be staying at. But there is a little bit of leeway if you can't find a direct transport straight to that city. Perhaps if you're in Southampton North, and then you can't find transport straight from Manchester to Southampton, and you have to go via London. Perhaps there's a flight that's more convenient via London. That's also all right. You can go via London and then travel upwards. And only use public transport if you have no other option. Again, try to get in touch with your university. They might arrange transportation, or if you have to arrange yourself your transportation. Now, a very important thing to note before you travel, 48 hours before arrival, to put your details in the public health passenger locator form. You'll find it at that link there. Essentially record all your transit points and then your final destination and your method of transportation. Okay, so next slide, we'll talk about a really upbeat opportunity for you in the next slide to work in the UK. So we are really committed to helping students stay in the UK. So it's not just you going to the UK studying and then let's go home, although you can do that also, but it would be a great opportunity to seize by working in the UK. We're committed to giving this world experience for you to build up. So our new graduate route reflects this. So this is going to be introduced in summer 2021. It will be available to all international students who have completed a degree at undergraduate level or above, and who still hold a valid Tier 4 visa by the time it's introduced. So in the next slide, we'll go a little bit further into the requirements, what we know so far. So if you go online, you research, where is this visa? It's not yet available from that Apply UK Visa link, because it will be introduced in summer 2021. You will receive essentially added time, either 2 years for bachelor's or master's, or 3 years for your PhD graduates. But it's a separate application, all right? So it's not automatic added to the visa you're applying for, which is the Tier 4 visa. So it will be a new visa later on when you apply in summer 2021. Also, you can't apply from Indonesia or anywhere else. You have to still be in the UK and make the application in the UK. Again, you don't need a job offer ready in hand yet. Even if you don't have any offers from a job, it is also to look for work. You don't have to have anything secured. After gaining work, then you can switch to a longer term visa, which is another visa. So there's a misconception about, okay, after 2 years, that's all, I have to go home. That's not it at all. We're really opening up for you to gain as long an opportunity as you require beyond the 2-year, 3-year graduate route to switch to a longer term work visa. All right. And also, if you do apply, if you do study online right now, you don't need to worry about whether you'll qualify or not, as long as you go to UK by 6th of April 2021. All right. So let's talk about the next slide, please. So what are the options after you graduate when you switch to this long-term work visa? There are a number of opportunities. The most of you will be getting a general work visa, which is the Tier 2 general. Now, what are the qualifications requirements? You do need to go to the gov.uk website and look at the requirements. There's a minimum salary threshold you need to meet. And there's another IHS and visa fee you need to pay, but it is essentially the same process. You get a COS instead of a CAS from your employer, and then you submit that course with your application online, submit documents online on the very same link that's earlier provided. You'll also get other opportunities like a Tier 5 visa or startup visa if you're an entrepreneur. That's also another option for you. Okay, but the majority of you will get a normal work visa. You can, while we're talking about work, when you're studying, you can work for 20 hours per week, right? If you're at a certain level. So check again, your visa sticker will print out based on your level of study how much you're permitted to work. It's up to 20 hours a week. And not many know this, but you can work full time actually during your vacation. So you can use the opportunity to try and find network opportunities to then get a full-time job afterwards. So use your vacation time if you want to do that. All right, so moving on to the next slide, please. Again, I want to end this slide by just reminding you a lot of the great provisions that are really flexible for you at this time. So you can do distance learning. You don't need a visa right away if you don't intend to travel within 90 days, okay? If you intend to start next semester, in fact, apply for your visa before you travel next semester, because to apply for a visa now, which means you have to travel within the 90 days, okay? And if for whatever reason you have applied and then you can't travel, there will be opportunity to replace that for free until December 2020. And also, if for whatever reason you're absent, it won't affect your immigration record negatively, as long as you just register these absences with your institution. All right, so these final two links, I do want to encourage you to look up. If you think that you need to ask a question to university about when you're deferring or because you have to do online learning overseas, there's a lot of provisions that are outlined in the link file there. Do have a look at it and then use that to speak to your international office regarding what provisions are available for you. And there's also lots of announcements about coronavirus related to immigration, like extensions for visas if you're already in the UK, things like that, or where to contact if you need to replace your visa. It's also in that link, so I do encourage you to check that. Okay, so I hope that has been helpful. I know I whizzed through that. So I'm also still answering Q&A, so if you need to ask something, I'll try to get to you back on there. So thank you, British Council. I'll hand it back to you now.
Thank you so much, Pandora. Before you leave, there's a question that's very important, maybe one or two questions, because we're also going to Q&A session. So the first question, if we have done the PCR result from Jakarta or from wherever student is, can they avoid the quarantine for 14 days in the UK?
No, because we actually don't require a COVID test to enter the UK. So it's not within the immigration rules for you to have a COVID-19 at this point. It won't be exempt then if you have that.
Okay, I think one more question. How strict is the bank deposit requirements for dependents? Do they need to prepare the bank deposit?
Okay, how strict it is, it will vary based on your individual bank situation. So how it's easy is that you can just actually take a screenshot of your bank statement. That's also right, like log into your internet account. As long as you show the last 28 days that the funds have been kept, right? So you need to keep the funds within 28 days and submit that, or a time deposit with the funds kept for 28 days. All right, so it can be a screenshot of that. You don't need to physically go to the bank and ask for a letter to say that. Or you can take a photo of your bank book, right? A few photos actually, because it will go a few pages, right? You can also do that, so you don't have to actually scan the bank book. You can also just take a photo, as long as you can read it, of course, from your phone.
Okay, thank you so much, Pandora. So as you are still here until the end of the sessions, and please drop your Q&A in the Q&A box, so Pandora can answer your all of your questions. So another question for Helen, actually. Just wait a moment. So Helen, the question is, how is the job market for international students during COVID-19? Is there any chance for international students to get a job or internship?
Thanks, Vega. It's a good question. And as Pandora has already said, it is possible to work alongside your studies for up to 20 hours in the UK, part-time. But please do check first with your university, because some universities like Oxford and Cambridge, for example, do not allow you to work during your term time studies. So please check with them, but most universities you can. You can also work during your summer holiday break as well. In terms of how easy it is at the moment, of course, like all countries, you know, recruitment has been hit in workplaces by the coronavirus. So I'm not going to say that that hasn't happened. However, we have seen instances on campuses in the UK where actually new types of work have popped up from student unions and things to support actually on campus. So do keep in touch with them, because you might find that there are kind of new opportunities coming up. What I'll also say as well is that in university towns, now that things are really opening up in the UK, shops have reopened, you know, the hairdressers have reopened, all these sorts of things. Actually, those sort of jobs will be there. I would say though that, you know, international students won't be at a disadvantage to others, but for the UK as a whole, we may be seeing in the coming months that there are perhaps fewer opportunities than there would have been pre-coronavirus, just as everybody gets back on their feet, because a lot of people in the UK have been furloughed, so they're not working, and that's due to come to an end in October. So those people will be going back to work. So these are things to kind of be very aware of, I think. So it's a bit of a mixed picture at the moment.
Okay. So another question, how does the online learning affect the students? Is there any difference from the normal face-to-face situations?
Sure. So I would say, yes, of course, it is different. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say to you, oh, it's exactly the same, you know, because all of us would love to be face-to-face with our tutors, and that's absolutely what the UK is trying to make happen as it is safe to do so. So as I said earlier, what they're looking at the moment, provided it's safe to do so, is that for those who can be on campus for the beginning of term in September or October, there will be some face-to-face provision there. But for those of you who will be studying from Indonesia for the first term, they are making sure that your studies will be available to you online. The thing is, of course, because the tutors, the professors are mostly based in the UK, and there is that at the moment, 6-hour time difference. You know, they're not going to be able to be awake at exactly the same hours as you. So it may be the case that sometimes you need to be looking at a recording of something. But what they are trying to make happen is that you do have some touch points with your tutors, so that you do have that interaction, that you're not just sat on your own studying in a different time zone.
Okay. One last question about the accommodation. So there's a lot of question asking if they need to do the 14 days quarantine. So how do they find the accommodation? Do the government provide the accommodation? Something like that.
So my first tip, and I've been writing it a lot in the Q&A box actually, my first tip would be please check with your international office, because actually a lot of the universities have accommodation provided for incoming international students. So check first with them. That would be my very first tip. And I know some other people have been saying, oh, my parents want to come to drop me off in the UK. So again, please check. the university's first priority will be providing accommodation and support to the students themselves. And obviously there's sort of not infinite space. So I would check with them to see what the support available is. It may be the case that family members may need to stay in a nearby hotel, but you are able to do that for self-isolation, whatever's most appropriate for you and your family. But first tip, check in with the university.
Okay. Thank you so much, Helen, for the information. So we will move to a presentation from PPI UK. They will give Mas Putra Utama will give important information about PPI UK. Just wait a moment. Hello, Mas Putra.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So now I'll start. Okay. So thank you, everyone. I hope you all can hear me clearly. I'm now here in Oxford. It's like a cloudy day, a typical day in UK, but it's okay. We are entering summer. We hope we'll see more blue skies afterwards. And first of all, congratulations and welcome to UK. And I'm really glad that you choose UK as your destination, because for myself, I was wondering whether going to UK was a right decision or not. And now I'm really glad that I decided to go to UK. And especially in this time of coronavirus pandemic, UK has been like a really welcoming country. And I agree with Helen and Moffat that in UK, your well-being is the first and most important thing for everyone. Okay, so moving to the next slide. What should I prepare? Most of the things that you need to prepare have been addressed by Helen Yang and by Pandora. It will be mostly about visa and stuff that will be on the next slide. First, you already got your letter of acceptance and you are currently in the process of your visa application. And the next thing is about arrival. From my point of view as a student, after arrival, it's really important to settle in first, get your accommodation ready, because after getting your accommodation ready, the next thing will be about getting your proof of residence. Proof of residence will be used in getting everything done, from lapor diri, university registration, bank account, and most importantly, mobile phone plan. For example, I'll explain more about lapor diri in the next slide, but about university registration and bank account, you need to prove that you already have a place to stay. And after you get a bank account, that's when you can set up your mobile phone plan. It's actually also okay if you want to use a prepaid plan, but in UK, if you're staying for 1 year for a master program, or even like 4 years if you're a PhD student, it will be like really beneficial for you if you get like a postpaid plan. Moving to the next slide. I'll explain more about lapor diri and why lapor diri is like super important. Lapor diri is a mechanism provided by the embassy, Indonesian embassy in UK. It's totally online now, so you don't need to go to London just to register yourself. But like, why lapor diri is important? For example, if you go back to Indonesia and you want to like legalize your document, like your transcript, or like you want to like renew your KTP while you're in UK because you lost your KTP while you are like, for example, going to Brighton for like holiday. You need to prove that you already registered via lapor diri in the Indonesian embassy website. Also, when you like lost your BRP or you lost your passport while you're traveling to Europe, they will also check whether you already registered with lapor diri or not. It's also like beneficial if you are staying for like 4 more years and we will have another general election. Your right to vote will depend on your lapor diri, whether you already lapor diri or not. And in this COVID pandemic, it will be important, for example, if sometimes, I don't hope that we will need it, but if in the future we need to do like a repatriation flight, the data of the flight manifest will be depend on whether you've already lapor diri or not. So lapor diri is like super important, and it's actually really easy to do. How to do it? I'll explain on the next slide. Okay, so this is surat keterangan pindah. I forgot this is one also why it's really important for you to do lapor diri. So at the end of your study program, whether it's only 1 year or like 4 years, and you want to go back to Indonesia, and for example, you want to bring back some Brompton bags or like some things you already use in UK. If you don't get a surat keterangan pindah, the the custom will charge you as if like you bought it while you're on holiday. But if you get the surat keterangan pindah, the custom will charge you because it will be surat keterangan pindah will be approved that you already live in UK, and anything that you goes and bring back to home is a thing that you already own and use in UK. So the custom won't charge any extra amount for you. So surat keterangan pindah can only be given to you if you already did lapor diri. On the next slide, I will explain more about how you do lapor diri. So it's really easy actually. You only need to visit the consular.indonesianembassy.org.uk, and you only need to fill out some personal identity data, why you're staying here, contact in UK, emergency contact both in UK and Indonesia, and then you can like print your own barcode, and it's better for you to keep it like on the back of your passport. So anywhere you go, anything happen with you, someone that found you or like someone that's going to help you can check you back to the Indonesian embassy. Okay, so that's all about lapor diri. Now we'll move to the next slide. How about COVID-19? So Indonesian embassy in United Kingdom has been like very responsive about the COVID-19 status. From PPI UK ourselves, we provide something called Laporona. So it's a simple form. It's made of like online form that you can fill if you are feeling terrible, if you're afraid that you are getting COVID-19, and the data from Laporona will be redirected to the Indonesian embassy. It will be also redirected to your PPI chapters. I will explain more about PPI chapter later, but by entering your terrible condition in Laporona, you will get like immediate help from the team in Indonesian embassy, from the COVID team in PPI UK, and like from the team in like the local PPI chapters. Next, other than Laporona, we also have the hotline in post-COVID COVID-19 in Indonesian embassy in London. Those two numbers are very important. You can take a note of those numbers, and you can also use the landline number provided, extension 9618. So don't worry, the Indonesian embassy in London is very responsive about COVID-19. Anyone, anywhere in the UK, anyone having like a terrible condition related to COVID will be taken care of by the Indonesian embassy in UK. So moving to the next slide. After talking about lapor diri, after talking about COVID situation, we know that you'll be like moving into a new place while you are getting to UK. And from PPI UK, we have this new program called kiosk.ppiuk.com. It's basically a pre-love market platform and a viewing service platform. So on the next slide, you can see that for pre-love market, it's basically a list of goods, and for viewing service, it's basically like you can put an advertisement that you need someone to help you view accommodation, and you put your charge, and you can put as low as like £5, £10. Since you couldn't be here, you can ask someone else from anyone from PPI anywhere in UK to check your room. And it's very important because you don't want to get a shitty room. For example, especially if you get like only 1 year in UK, you want to get a really nice room, and especially if it's private accommodation, you need someone, and it will be better if it's Indonesian, to check whether the room is good or not, whether like there is something shady about the room or not. And moving to the next slide, it's about the pre-love market section. So on the pre-love market section on the next slide, you can see that the kiosk PPI UK will provide you options to get really cheap goods that in the previous year were used by another Indonesian student. On the next slide, okay. So Indonesian students will be like selling and letting you, for example, even get for free their pre-love goods, because like, for example, like I got myself a TV, for example, and like there is no point for me bringing back the TV back to Indonesia because like I can buy a TV in Indonesia, so I'll just like sell it for like half of the price it would be like a really good bargain for you rather than you go to like electronic shop in UK and get it for like much more expensive price. So please make sure to check your ppuk.com. It will be start to go live by mid-August, and you can hire your private viewing service, and you can like sell and buy pre-owned goods on the platform. Okay, so on the next slide, I would like to end my presentation by showing you this picture. So a few days ago, on the Twitter, we got some good news from UK that one Indonesian student, his name is Indra, he was involved in the trials and research of the COVID vaccine in Oxford University. And as we know, the vaccine from Oxford University currently is like one of the most advanced vaccine development for COVID-19. This is what you can be when you go to UK. Next year, you will start a new journey. And in UK, everything is possible. You can be, for example, like Indra, a part of solving a problem that the world is really eager to solve. You can be of something that's larger than you. And it's very important that there is something that you wouldn't be able to do everywhere in the world, but in UK, you can do it. And I also noticed that despite being a really good researcher, Indra is also a member of PPI UK. And when I arrived here last year, he let me to stay in his room for like 2 weeks. So this is the importance of joining PPI UK. Okay, you will have your own community in your campus. You will have your own community with very diverse background of friends from everywhere in the world. But it's always good to keep in touch. I don't understand. It's always good to get in touch with another Indonesian student, because in the time of really difficult time, for example, during like COVID pandemic, they will be there for you, because like as fellow Indonesians, we'll always provide help for you. Doesn't matter how busy we are. And for my last slide, on the next slide, please. Please don't forget to have fun. I know that you want to achieve like really big things in UK. You want to be on the dean's list. You want to graduate with distinction. You want to prove that you are worthy for your UK education. But please don't forget to have fun. For example, like in 2 hours, I'll be going to Lake District, like a super nice vacation area in UK with lots of lakes, of course, because it's Lake District. But we'll also have Brighton, like a super nice beach area, because like UK is not all that gloomy and rain. We also have beaches and sometimes blue sky. Please don't forget to explore UK, especially because of the COVID pandemic. Probably it will be more difficult for you to go to mainland Europe, but don't worry, UK will provide a lot of places for you to explore. And last but not least, on my final slide, on the next slide, more information can be found on ppuk.org. So here you can find the list of PPI Cabang. If you click on PPI Cabang, you will get information about every PPI chapters anywhere you are studying in UK. So for example, you go to like Bangor, there is a city in Wales called Bangor, or you go to Aberdeen, you go to Scotland, you go to York. Anybody in that PPI chapter will be ready to help you. And if you contact them early, for example, in Oxford, we already set up our new or Indonesian freshers WhatsApp group, and you can ask them for a more specification that probably the university or like your student union doesn't really provide you, because it's like very Indonesian specific. On the next slide. Okay, so we are here to help. For more information, please go to PPI_United Kingdom on Instagram. You can DM us with any of your questions. We have a team to answer your questions. Don't be afraid. Most of the times you'll direct you to PPI chapters, but they'll be like there to help you with your very specific questions. And on my last slide, on the next slide, keep calm and good luck. I can assure you that going to UK is one of my best decisions in life, because I agree with you and agree with Helen. In UK, your well-being comes first, and it really helps in this kind of time. in COVID-19. And other than that, UK is like one of the most advanced countries in this world, and there are a lot of things that you can do here that's larger than yourself. A lot of things to explore, a lot of friends, and please be prepared because it'll be like a really fun year and exciting year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mas Putra, for a very interesting presentation. So before I ask Mas Putra, I just want to introduce you, the Indonesia current student here. Just wait a moment. Mas Yan Adi Irawan, study MBA at the University of Oxford, and also Alicia Zahra, studying BSc Psychology at University of Oxford. So if you want to ask Alicia, Yan, and Mas Putra, just please drop the question in Q&A box. But I have a question for Mas Putra. So this is a collective question from the registration form from the participants. How can we join the PPI UK?
Okay, so once you get into United Kingdom as an Indonesian student and you did the lapor diri, you'll be formally registered as a PPI UK. But don't worry, even if you haven't filled the lapor diri form, once you arrive in UK, once you arrive in your city, you are already a member of a PPI chapter in that city. For example, you arrive in London and you went to Brighton. Another PPI member in Brighton will be ready to welcome you. They'll be ready to help you. I still remember on my first day here, I know no one, but then as soon as I arrive in Oxford Station, there are guys from PPI Oxford. They are there to help me with my suitcases. They help me to get to Idra's house, and it was really nice to get at least someone that you know are fellow Indonesians to help you once you get here. It gives you a sense of home immediately after you arrive in UK. And I don't know whether it's the same case in other countries, but I can tell you that PPI UK is one of the most welcoming PPI in the world. Not to self-promote, but yeah, I can testify for that.
Wow, thank you for that, Mas Putra. And another question, I will give this to Mas Yan. Mas Yan, as I know that you bring your family to the UK, is it possible, because there's a lot of questions in the registration form also, the participant who will ask, is it possible to bring family and child, and what is the tips for that?
Okay, thank you, Vega. Yeah, is it possible to bring family or child? Yes, it definitely is possible. And if you're in the position to do so, I personally highly recommend it. So I come here with my wife and my 2 kids. So I had them with me throughout this year. And I think one of the things with that as well, something that you probably need to consider is, yes, I understand that maybe like a lot of you come to UK for study. But again, we know that learning happens not just in universities, but in real world as well. So one thing that I truly value in UK here, as Helen mentioned earlier, is probably the diversity in the culture and the people and everything as well. And that's something you probably want to transfer to your family as well. You want to transfer that to your kids as well. I mean, like, over here, some of my good friends over the year are from South Africa or Brazil, which gave me like a good conversation, and you can basically see and listen how people can think differently about something. And for my daughter Alma, she is 5 years old now, and her good friends now are from Timor, from Italy, and from Albania. So she does have that exposure to a larger diversity contact as well. So I truly recommend it. If you are in the position to do so, I highly recommend it. And as a bonus, if you bring your kids, they usually develop that nice thick British accent. Lovely.
Well, I like your statement about learning is not only in the university but also in real life. So, is it possible for any Indonesian students to bring the family? So, the next question is I will ask to Alicia as well and Mas Yan. What tips for choosing accommodation for private or family? I will go to Alicia first, as you are stay alone in UK, but you are currently in Jakarta, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any tips choosing accommodations?
Well, it really depends on what how you like to live. If you like to live, with someone else, I think I will really recommend searching for shared accommodations, en suites, or maybe even shared bathrooms. I recommend to always go with university-owned accommodations for the first year. So then they take care of everything for you. But then in the second year, maybe you've made some friends in the first year, and then you can discuss plans to live with them together. And then it's always much easier to just stay with university allocated accommodation because they take care of everything for you. But it's definitely really possible to live in private rented accommodations. But I recommend always staying with the university owned first in the first year, and then see whether or not you'd like to stay with someone in the second year. It's usually a lot of people stay with the friends they've made in the second year, and then they do private rented because sometimes it's much cheaper as well. But personally, I am staying alone because I value my privacy when it comes to living alone. But that doesn't mean you're isolated from others when you do that. Definitely, there are so many occasions wherein you can meet your friends, and there's so many spaces that allow you to hang out with your friends. So it really depends on you. It's personal preference.
Okay, thank you. So, Mas Yan, as you bring your family, is there any tips for Indonesian students to choose the accommodations for family, because they understand that the rent price could be very expensive? So how do you find the right accommodation for your family?
Yeah, I think Alicia summed it very nicely before. Again, it depends on your it depends on many things. It depends on your preference, your situation, how many kids you have, how old are them. So there are no certain formula for this. But again, there's a lot of option, and for example, I choose university accommodation as well because, like Alicia mentioned earlier, it just simplify a lot of things, especially during your first year. I highly recommend it. It's sort of like limit your exposure to many risks that you're not familiar in a new place and everything. And also, when you think of university accommodation, I think one thing that I need to highlight is it's not just like a dorm style like you've probably seen in US setting or something like that, but a lot of university has house or like a building apartment flat as well. So it's owned by university. So there is a lot of that as well. So again, it depends on your institution. So you might want to check with accommodation manager and everything. But for the first year, I guess, yes, if you have a good option from your university, I would highly recommend to do so.
Okay, thank you. So I think that the accommodation information also can be found in PPI UK website, isn't it, Mas Putra?
So yeah, okay, wait, so me and Yanyan is currently in the same room. Okay, so for feedback, so yeah, you can go to kiosk PPI UK and you can find accommodation information. But for a more detailed accommodation, you can always contact the PPI chapter. They will provide you with options whether you should choose a certain university accommodation, a certain private accommodation, which part of the town to avoid, because for example, it's kind of too far. It's kind of too far from campus. That side of the town doesn't have that many Asian supermarket. Those kind of information you can always get specifically from PPI chapter. So go to PPI UK website on the PPI chapter or PPI Cabang tab, click, and there is the full contact list for every city in UK. Currently, we have 30 PPI chapter all around UK, and you'll find the one that's closest to your university. You contact them, they will provide information. But if you're looking for private accommodation in UK, there is one website that I can recommend, which is spareroom.co.uk or spareroom.com. It will provide you, I think, with the best private accommodation option, at least in Oxford. But I guess that's also the same case for other cities in UK.
Okay, so I will make because we consider the time now. For all of you, when is the right moment to search job during your study, whether it's postgraduate or undergraduate? Is it hard for Indonesian students to get a job? Maybe I can go to Mas Yan first, because I know sometimes PG students have difficult time to manage your schedule. So do you have any tips for Indonesian students?
Yeah, so again, it depends, but I would see that, well, for postgraduate, it's probably quite easy because most postgraduate, at least for master degree in UK, most will be in 1 year. So when is the right moment to search job? There is probably no easy answer, but I would recommend, because you're moving to a new country, you're moving probably to a totally different environment that you're used to. Try to explore the job option, try to review your CV and get others to review your CV from early on. But when do you need to actually search for a job? I would probably recommend during your last year of your study, which means if you're doing master degree, that means several months, like couple of months after you arrive in UK, probably you need to get going. Is it hard for Indonesian students to get a job? I don't see any difference between Indonesian passport holder and other non-British citizens, to be honest. Like, again, like everyone mentioned earlier, UK is a very diverse place. So you totally see that, you know, as an Indonesian, we don't have any disadvantage in this regard and basically treated the same like others. And in fact, when you're like, just as an example, both me and Putra here, we had recruiter contacted us probably like 3 months after we arrived in UK, and we secured job back then. So Putra, do you want to add anything to that one?
Okay. Okay, so especially for graduate students, my recommendation will be for you to start while you're still even in Indonesia. You get your target companies, for example, and you start by sending them emails, telling them, okay, I'm going for this like graduate program in UK, and I would like to explore career in your company after I graduate. You can give them like your graduation estimate. And that especially works really well for UK students and not for other countries in the world, because other countries will take like 2 years to finish their program, but in UK, since it's like a really nice, short and sweet 1 year, they will be able to wait for you, and yeah, you can secure the job, I guess, by like the 4th or the 5th month of your study in UK. And if you're looking for UK and not going back to Indonesia, it will also really nice. UK are like currently. Okay, so PPI UK is currently working together with YIPA, Young Indonesian Professional Association in UK. It's like a bunch of Indonesian professionals currently working in UK, mostly in London. They will provide you information for both information from Indonesian companies and UK companies. They will connect you with Indonesian alumni working in London right now, and they can help you to prepare for the interviews. So I guess UK is one of the best, not the best, like one of the most comfortable ecosystem for Indonesian to look for jobs compared to other countries in the world.
Okay, thank you so much, Mas Putra. So for Alicia, continue the questions. I will compile with another questions. So since your great scholarships or your scholarship doesn't provide you full scholarships, how do you balance your study and work to live in the UK? So maybe it's related with a previous question.
Yeah, so based on what I've seen from my own personal schedule in school, I actually have a lot of free time. So I say undergraduates actually have a lot of time to search for work and work. Personally, I haven't had any part-time work, but I say for undergraduates, a nice place to start searching for work is probably your own campus. So there are usually a lot of university jobs available for international students that center around your identity as an international student. So usually a lot of universities are searching for international student ambassadors to help acquaint other students to other new students to when they're moving in. And I say a lot of universities always have this type of job available, and they specifically always search for international students. And I feel like that's a great starter for undergraduates to search for jobs.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So for the very last questions, I hope you can give a short answer. How you all overcome homesick, different language, culture, and education system in the UK? Do you have final advice for the upcoming students? I will go to Mas Yan first.
Okay, I'll make it this one short. How do you overcome homesick? Learn to cook. To me, that's probably like one of the very thing that connects me to Indonesia is like, again, right now we are helped with technology. You can just Skype or Zoom or people from countries very easily. But having that late night craving of, I don't know, martabak or something like that, rendang, exactly. That will, to me, that's probably the surefire recipe to overcome homesick.
Mas Putra.
Okay, so Yanyan is really okay. Sorry for the feedback. So Yanyan was like super right. Learn to cook. It's really useful to cut some costs, but another practical solution is like smile more, because at least in Oxford, at least in my department, a lot of Indonesians are like super well known because we smile all the time, we laugh all the time. So smile more, be chill, and just enjoy life, because that kind of traits doesn't seem to be like common in other nationalities, and it will put you like on the spotlight because that's the Indonesian guy that always smile, that always laugh, and it helps you. It helps you to connect with more friends. It helps you with connect with the university, and it helps you with your life. Like because you smile more, you feel that you are happier, and you will enjoy UK more. I guess that's my recommendation for you.
Very good. And what about you, Lisha? Because you are currently at home now, but when you are in your tips for...
Yeah, you know, now that I'm back in Jakarta, it's the other way around. I miss England and I miss my friends in Bristol. But yeah, when I'm in Bristol, definitely, I think the best way to solve that feeling of homesickness is definitely hang out with the Indonesian students that you know of in your campus, from the Indonesian communities. Usually they hold a lot of events, like cookouts together, or maybe even I went to what was it? They had a bowling thing, like an Indonesian community bowling thing, and that was really nice. But yeah, I say always keep in touch with your friends back home, your family, video call them a lot. And yeah, I agree with Mas Putra and Mas Yan. I do cook a lot of Indonesian food. That is a really, really nice way to deal with homesickness. But also, yeah, it cuts costs a lot to cook your own food.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are Indonesians everywhere, I think. So it's really, really easy to stay in touch and to still feel like you're home, even though you're really far away from home.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are now at the end of the sessions. I would like to thank to all the panelists who participates today, and also to all the participants. Remember that this sessions is recorded, and we will share the details to you later to your email. So we also have your questions here. We will try to answer all the questions. So if you have a further questions, make sure that you check our website, Study UK, britishcouncil.org, which is, and also follow our social media at ID British. And yeah, we hope that we can see you in the next webinar sessions. Thank you so much and have a good weekend, everybody.